Thank you, Jeff. Coach, has Terrance missed the number of games to receive a medical red shirt for this season with the injury?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
Has a date been set for, I guess, having surgery for him?
Tomorrow morning.
And then I guess based on that, we'll know approximate time recovery for him.
Well, all Achilles are about 5 months, so he'll be back for everything in the summer.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Chronicle. Joseph, please go ahead.
Good morning, Kelvin.
Morning, Joseph.
Kelvin, along those lines, this is something that you've dealt with in the past when you lose a player. In terms of roles and guys that you have, is there, in terms of how you look towards the future with guys, can you kind of give us a little insight and maybe some roles change or guys that you'll, look to?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you come up with a plan, you know. Almost 2 years ago, we're getting ready to play the same team, Texas State. We had filmed the night before. Tremont came to film. We had a team prayer with him. Next morning, he had surgery on torn labrum. We knew he was going to be out. I think that was 6 to 8 months. And then that night, I think it was the 23rd, Marcus broke his fifth metatarsal in his left foot, so he was out for the year. But also, Kyler Edwards had a second or third degree sprain on his ankle. So we lost 3 guards in the same day. So the question you're asking me about losing Terrance is child's play compared to what we had to do then. So what will we do? We'll have a plan. And I'm looking forward to getting our guys in our plan, and we'll move forward.
Thank you, Joseph. Go to Chancellor Johnson from KPRC. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning.
Hey, it seems like JoJo Tuckler has given you good production off the bench, and it seems like he's getting better and better each game. For you personally, how satisfying is it to see him continue to grow and develop each and every game?
Yeah. I thought the 2 guys that were, sometimes, I see them in practice every day, so I see things you guys don't see. But the guys that are practicing, I say the best. That's not fair because some of our guys never have a bad practice. Emmanuel Sharp has become a reliable practice player. And I tell these guys all the time, your greatest ability in practice every day is your dependability. You have to be dependable. I have to know when I walk down that tunnel and my shoes hit that wood floor, I need to know what to expect from you today. And if I have to go down there and coach attitude or effort, then it's going to be a tough day for you, but it's unnecessary. I think everything we do here is based on accountability, and programs that don't have culture is all rooted back to accountability. You don't water flowers, you water roots. Roots are your culture and your accountability. You cannot have sustained success without that. And that starts with being dependable in practice every day. Damian Dunn, JoJo, Terrance, all those guys have come a long way in that area, and it takes time. I remember when Kyler Edwards, for instance, he struggled big time for a while, but he was fighting a losing battle, and then he realized that he's fighting an immovable object. Terrance, can't tell you how much he improved. I mean, it's literally when he went in the game Saturday, I had 3 things already called, and all of them went through him. So, not having him, and I think that really shook our kids too. But, at halftime, he was right. As we walked into the door, it was in the visiting locker room over there. But his mother was there. Of course, she was really upset. Dr. Shoup and Dr. Lee, John were in there with him, and our guys walked by, and that was it's tough. I mean, Terrance is one of their brothers. He's really, really, really well respected and loved. These kids love Terrance Arceneaux. So that was a tough moment, but not having him physically on the floor was tougher than losing him at the moment. Because Ramon will probably move into that role and have more of a defined role now. But he wasn't ready for what we were doing on Saturday because he was more ready for the backcourt stuff and maybe not for the front court stuff. But that's part of dealing with an injury, man. It's part of it. It's not the first time we've had a injury, and it won't be the last time. But you recruit your team, and sometimes you hope for the best, and and injuries happen, and they're not going to cancel the schedule. we got to still play that game Thursday night. But JoJo, you have to remember he turned 18 this summer. He was a young man. Those guys he was playing against on Saturday, Coleman, I think, was a 4th or 5th year guy. Washington's about the same. Garcia, those guys 3-4 years older, and that means they're that much stronger and experienced. But JoJo was in there battling. I think he had what did JoJo play? I think he played 21 minutes, had 5 rebounds, blocked a couple of shots. I mean, he did good. He's getting better. He's and I think his progress is pretty linear. He doesn't have a lot of bad days because he's a really good practice player.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston. Chris, please go ahead with your question for Coach.
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey, Chris.
Do people underestimate how long it takes, a player like Damian to adjust to a complete new situation? And have you found things as a coach that can sort of speed along that process?
What do you mean, people?
Just, I guess people outside the program.
I have no idea what they think. I'm not tuned into what other people think outside the program. For us, it's continual development. Damian's on the verge. He's right there. I've been encouraged with him. He was really good yesterday. These kids aren't robots. They're not machines. You don't give somebody a formula, punch it in. Okay, now you're exactly the same guy you were at Temple. When he was at Temple, he was the first option, the second option, and then back to the first, and then the first again, and then maybe the second. He was LJ. If we didn't have LJ, or if we didn't have Emmanuel, and he played 30 minutes a game, and he got 15 or 16 shots a game, you'd see Damian playing really good. The guy that's got to do a better job is me. I've got to do a better job. I've got to do a better job of learning how to use him when he's in the game. That's why I never pay attention to our record, because you're constantly fiddling with your motor. You're winning these races, but your motor is still got a click in it. It's still got twang over there that we need to work that out. We need to work this out. So that's what I am. I'm a mechanic. I'm always trying to fix the motor to run better. Our motor's not running on all its RPMs, but I'm the mechanic, and you say, Damien's struggling. That's not always all Damien's fault. A lot of that has to be on me. I've got to do a better job of putting that kid in a position where he can be who he was and the guy we recruited. I remember this analogy I made this morning to our staff was, I remember watching Rob Gray play in a summer league game for the Rockets. I don't remember who they had as their point guard, but they had Rob over there in the corner. I don't remember who the point guard was, but Rob was exponentially better than that kid in pick and rolls. Rob is a pick and roll maestro, probably the best we've had since I've been here. And I had him standing in the corner. Rob might as well go ahead and find a flight to France. If you're going to evaluate him based on staying in the corner, it's not using him to what he does best. And so we're still fiddling. We're still trying to do this and do that. And maybe Terrance, what happened with Terrance, that's obviously moved some things around. So now you got another thing in the motor you got to go fix. And but I like fiddling. I like tinkering and making sure the motor's running. And so sometimes I have to be a better mechanic. It's not always on the kid.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go back to Chris Gardner, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Coach, what are your thoughts on the job Coach Johnson is doing at Texas State, and what do they do well?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of TJ. Known TJ a long time. He's actually really, really good friends with Quantas and Hollis, and he I know all my former point guards won't like to hear this, but the best point guard I've ever had is the assistant coach at Texas State, Benny Seltzer. I recruited Benny as a high school senior out of high school in Birmingham, Alabama. And the only reason we got him was Auburn and Alabama had point guards and they couldn't recruit him. So I put the full court press on that kid and got him to Washington State. And big reason why we were successful at Washington State is because of Benny. And Benny went on to become assistant coaches. He was the head coach at Samford. Now he's back in a great spot. He's the top assistant for TJ at Texas State. They won their league a couple of times, and then you win the league. You don't win it every year at those levels. You have to reload and start again. But TJ's an outstanding coach. They run good stuff. He's got good players. They fit. I was just watching the second half against Texas. I think it was 41-38 Texas State. They were ahead. But that tells you about what kind of players they have. They have good players, really good players. So, we're expecting a tough game, and I wouldn't expect anything less than from TJ and his team.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go back to Joseph Duarte. Joseph, please go ahead.
Kelvin, going back to Saturday, the post game, in regards to Jamal and how much he has the ball in his hand, is LJ sort of an option there in terms of if you wanting to?
Well,
to
don't get it twisted. Buzz was throwing stuff against the wall there for a while. Some of it stuck. He went from a man. The ball's, when we run our man offense, the ball's always moving. The only reason it stopped was they jumped into a 3-2, and they took their 4-man and put him in the middle of the 3-2 and spread out, and that was difficult for Jamal to see. So, we're screaming at him from the sideline, what to run. You can't call timeout. Prior I'd blow the whistle and say, okay, run this, and then we're off and running. But by hesitating early, now you get deeper into shot clock. And as you get deep into shot clock, the Jamal will go to his fastball. Now his fastball is middle pick and rolls, but I've got to do a better job of getting that ball out of his hands and get moving. I mean, we have multiple things. That's not the first time that we've seen 3-2, but it's the first time this team's seen it. And you know, that's the same team that had a 21-point lead playing against the defense they were running. So they changed their defenses to a defense that this team, remember, we're still in middle of December, and this team hadn't seen a 3-2. And we haven't really worked against the 3-2. And but a lot of the stuff that we do against a 1-3-1 or 2-3 will work against a 3-2. But that was a good move on Buzz's part. But our personnel for that game was based on getting that ball inside to J1. You know, we had a plan, and our plan was outstanding. And then their way of stopping it was to get out of that defense and move to another defense. You know, I think there was a bunch of teams in the American that ran a 3-2, and the ones that ran it were really, really good at it. So it's just part of evolution, just moving along. You learn a lot. There's something you learn from every game to help you get better for the next game.
We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, go ahead.
Kelvin, at this point in your career, do you find yourself appreciating moments more or enjoying the tinkering more? Does like a season like this feel any differently than, you know, like 5 years ago? Or
no, I've always been a tinkerer. I like to tinker on Sunday mornings. You know, Karen doesn't even ask me anymore, but every Sunday morning, I get up and I go watch Kylan and Maisie in swim class. That's at 8:30. Thank God for heated pools, and for heat, period. God, I couldn't imagine jumping into a cold pool Sunday morning at 8:30. But I go watch them do their swimming classes and, you know, play with them and mess with them and do all that stuff. And then Kellen and Tiny take them home. And then I just head up to the office. You know, I've got a big whiteboard here. You know, I make a lot of notes, things that I saw that we need to fix or get better at. I'm constantly thinking about our players, you know, who's up, who's down, how can I help them? You know, once the season starts and you get into the games, you know, you're always tinkering, you know, with your offense. You know, and I've had a lot of coaches really help me because they ran stuff that maybe we weren't prepared for. And I remember Mike Montgomery did something when he was at Stanford. Coach Knight did something when he was at Indiana. Coach Miller did something when he was at Oregon State. You know, all those guys, Coach Sutton at Oklahoma State, you know, you coach against these guys, they prepare for you, and then you have to prepare for them. It was like the most important game that I've coached all year is the one this coming Thursday. That's an important game. It's really important. As you know, we've lost one of our soldiers, and we've got to replace him. So when Terrance went down, it creates an opportunity for somebody else, and we have to get that young man prepared, get him to buy into his role. But it's not just getting him to buy into his role; it's getting the other kids to buy into him in his role. You know, we played. You know, Terrance didn't play the second half, so that was a big adjustment for us in the second half, especially for J1. But J1 played way too many minutes. You know, he wasn't. You know, he was beat up going into it, and then he was really ineffective second half. Couldn't move real well. Pick and roll coverages. You know, but anyway, that stuff's neither here nor there. But yeah, I like to tinker, but I've always been a tinkerer. You're always changing stuff, not changing to be changing because of what the other team's doing to you. You know, it's kind of like a chess match. You know, other coaches force you to use your creativity and your imagination, do this or that. You know, some teams guard the post this way. Okay, here's what they do. Here's what we can do. They're denying this part of the floor. Okay, good. We can get this. But, you know, I like doing that. I think all coaches do. I'm certainly not any different than anybody else when it comes to that area. But I like learning from other coaches too. I like seeing what they do that works, and you know, so yeah.
Got time for a couple more questions before we go to the TV group. We'll go back to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin, going back to Damian and putting him in better positions for success, I know you kind of joked before about this is a dictatorship, not a democracy. But how often do you have those conversations with players as far as, hey, where do you like it? What are you comfortable with? And how does a player earn that to where you allow them to give some of that feedback in a conversation?
Chancellor, that's deep, bruh. You know, I used to take tests in college. I was really, really good with objective tests, true or false, ABC, ABCD, all the above. I'm really good with those tests. You put a lot out there. I'm always in contact with our kids. I text them a lot at night, you know, call them at night. You know, if a kid has a particularly tough practice, good chance I'm gonna reach out to him. I give him enough space and enough time. There's always a right and wrong time, but you know, as a coach, you have to have a feel for that stuff. Unless you're a coach, you wouldn't know. But where does he like it? I know where he likes it. It's not that. That's not the point. The point is you know, we're 11-0 for a reason. You know, our offense is good for a reason. You just can't all of a sudden take your offense and change it and focus on one guy. It's the ingredients. You know, if you add too much of this ingredient, you're taking away from the original recipe. Our recipe right now is pretty good. So how much do we want to change it? You know, but at the same time, how can we enhance it? And that's becomes my challenge, is how do we enhance a really good pot of stew? You know, I'm not trying to throw cinnamon in there or nutmeg or any of that stuff. I'm just trying to enhance it. But I think we've got an ingredient we can. I think Damian is somebody that can help us, and we just got to figure it out. But such a great kid. Such a great kid. I mean, I love Damian Dunn. He's tremendous teammate. But I could say that about all our guys. You know, we don't have guys that are not great teammates and team first guys. That's one of the things that helps us throughout the course of a year where you have some ups and downs. But you're making a good point, though, Chancellor. We got to figure out a way. So we got to lift the hood, man. Get some ratchets and wrenches and this and that. Get in there and pop that top and get the tinkering. That's what we do.
Time for one more question before the TV. We'll go back to Chris Baldwin for the last question. Chris, go ahead.
Kelvin, you've talked over several weeks about how impressed you were with how Terrance improved. He came in last year, and there's a lot of, you know, maybe unrealistic expectations around him. What allowed him to sort of stick with it and, you know, make those improvements?
Yeah, I think the thing about us here is we deal in facts, not fiction. You know, sometimes when people start throwing opinions out there, they start believing them. They forget they were an opinion, which is the furthest thing from fact that you can have. You know, I deal in facts. I do not deal in opinion. Opinion is fiction most of the time. We tell them the truth. You know, everything that we tell Terrance is, this is what you need to know. We talked to his parents, Tasha and Eric. I had a great talk with Eric last night. Kellen was on the phone with Tasha. You know, the great thing about our kids is they listen to us. They don't deal in the fictional world or the world of opinions, and you know that stuff is you know, a lot of that stuff is like being in a classroom where you got 27 kids in 3 rows, 9 to a row. The teacher whispers something in that first kid's ear, then he turns around and whispers to the second. They go all the way around, and by the time you get to the 27th kid, it's so far away from what the fact. She whispered a fact, and by the time the last kid got it, she had turned it into fiction. But as soon as she said it, people believed it. But it's fiction. You know, I deal in facts. So helping Terrance is Stella Dillon in La La Land with us. He dealt with what he needed to hear, and we're honest with our kids, almost brutally honest with them. But that's why they're all here. They want to be told the truth.